The story of Nehemiah is a compelling narrative found in the Old Testament of the Bible. It revolves around the character of Nehemiah, a devout Jew serving as a cupbearer to King Artaxerxes in the Persian capital of Shushan. Nehemiah's journey is one of faith, leadership, and determination. Before we continue, become a part of my YouTube family by clicking on the subscribe button below so you never miss out on my latest content. Back to our video. In the splendid court of King Artaxerxes, they lived a man, his name, Nehemiah. He served as a trusted cupbearer to King Artaxerxes in the Persian capital of Shushan. One day, he received news from his homeland, Jerusalem, that shattered his heart. The city lay in ruins, and its walls were broken down. Years ago, the nation of Israel had endured captivity and exile. They had strayed from the path of righteousness, persisting in their defiance of God. Their exile had been orchestrated by the powerful King Nebuchadnezzar, ruler of Babylon, who had invaded Israel on 3 separate occasions, each time capturing and deporting its people. The remnants that are left of the captivity are in great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gate thereof are burned with fire. When Nehemiah heard this sad news, he wept and mourned for days. How can I sit here in comfort while my people and my city suffer? Even though he had not experienced their suffering, he identified with them. Overwhelmed with grief, Nehemiah turned to God in prayer, seeking guidance and strength. Desperate to help his people back home, he cried out to God, "Lord, grant me favor in the eyes of the king. Let me return to Jerusalem and help rebuild our beloved city." In his esteemed role as the king's cupbearer, Nehemiah's responsibilities encompassed more than merely offering wine. He was entrusted with safeguarding the king's life. The cupbearer held a pivotal position in any royal court, serving as the king's dedicated protector by tasting food and wine before it reached the king's lips, ensuring his safety from potential poisoning. This duty demanded an individual of unwavering trustworthiness and impeccable character, someone in whom the king could repose boundless confidence. To betray the trust of the king in such a role could have dire consequences, potentially paving the way for assassination attempts. Therefore, the cupbearer needed to be a person of unblemished and resolute integrity. Moreover, the cupbearer often found himself in the unique position of offering counsel to the king on various matters. Nehemiah, after months of prayerful anticipation, finally received his answer. The fateful day arrived, signaling a momentous change for Nehemiah and his people. His countenance was heavy with sorrow as he grieved for Jerusalem. This marked the first instance the king had observed Nehemiah in a state of sadness, prompting the king to inquire about the cause. "Why is your face sad when you are not ill? Surely, this can only be a reflection of a troubled heart." In the king's court, displaying sorrow was strictly against protocol, a norm observed in many royal courts. The belief was that the king's presence was so majestic that it should alleviate any sorrows. The king could have easily taken offense at Nehemiah's display of sadness, interpreting it as a personal affront. But when the king remarked, "This can only be sorrow of heart," it signified that he had not only noticed Nehemiah's sadness, but also considered it gravely. The next utterance from the king held the power to determine Nehemiah's fate, a prospect that filled him with trepidation. Nevertheless, he chose honesty. "May the king live forever," Nehemiah replied. "Why should my countenance not be sad when the city where my ancestors rest lies in ruins, its gates burned down?" The king then posed a momentous question. "What is it that you request?" Nehemiah's heart pounded with anxiety, aware that he was about to present a significant appeal. Much depended on the outcome of this question, and he understood that he could not change the king's heart on his own. Thus, he prayed silently and entrusted the matter to the Lord. After his brief prayer, he responded to the king's query, explaining the reason for his sorrow. Jerusalem was a city in disrepair and disgrace. The king's response was not a command for Nehemiah's execution, but a remarkable question. "What can I do to assist you?" At that moment, Nehemiah recognized that his 4 months of fervent prayer had been answered. He said, "If it pleases the king, And if your servant has found favor in your sight, please send me to the city of Judah, where my ancestors rest, so that I may rebuild the city." With the queen by his side, the king inquired further, "How long will your journey take, and when do you plan to return?" The king readily granted his request. Nehemiah had already formulated a comprehensive plan during those 4 months of prayer. He immediately provided a timeline and added, "If it pleases the king, may I also request letters to the governors, granting me safe passage until I reach Judah, and a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, authorizing me to obtain timber for the construction of the gates and walls for the city, as well as a residence for myself." Nehemiah possessed a clear vision of the work to be undertaken, the materials required, and the necessary preparations. He required no additional time to strategize. His 4 months of prayer had yielded a comprehensive plan. The king endorsed his request, a clear testament to the gracious hand of God at work. Everything was now in readiness for Nehemiah's mission to commence. And so, Nehemiah arrived in Jerusalem for the very first time and assessed the damage. The people of Israel had lived in these cities without walls nor gates for about 100 years. They were not expecting a hero to come down and rebuild the wall. Most likely, they had accepted that it was impossible. It seems no one could fix a 100-year-old problem. Years ago, when someone tried, enemies simply stopped them, so they lived with it. A city without a wall nor gate is vulnerable to attack. Nehemiah gathered the leaders of Jerusalem and shared the good news they least expected. "We will rebuild these walls and restore our city's glory." The people of Jerusalem were happy hearing this news. Finally, we will no longer live in fear of being attacked and captured, fear of losing our loved ones to the enemies. As the rebuilding commenced, opposition arose from neighboring leaders, Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite. "We must stop Nehemiah." This was the beginning of a huge difficulty for Nehemiah. Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite, and Geshem the Arabian were unhappy, seeing that someone had come to deliver the people of Israel and their city. As long as Jerusalem was weak and vulnerable, these two didn't care about it. Even though the temple was there and worship conducted, that was fine as long as the people of God were not strong, secure, and free from stress. Nehemiah and his people faced threats, but they persevered, working with tools in one hand and weapons in the other. Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite, and Geshem the Arabian used different approaches to sabotage the rebuilding of the walls of Jerusalem. These 3 men were the citizens of Jerusalem and powerful figures. We might have thought they would have supported the work of God, but they did not. Opposition is always difficult, but when brothers disagree with you, it feels like betrayal. Despite the challenges, Nehemiah's determination prevailed. The walls of Jerusalem were rebuilt in just 52 days. With God's help, we have accomplished this great task. The people gathered at Watergate as Ezra the scribe read the law of Moses. This led to spiritual renewal and commitment to follow God's commandments. Nehemiah dedicated the city of Jerusalem, and his leadership left a lasting legacy of faith, perseverance, and restoration. God has been with us every step of the way. The story of Nehemiah serves as an inspiring testament to the power of faith, leadership, and determination in overcoming adversity. With faith, even the mightiest walls can be rebuilt, and a people can be renewed.